Now we move on. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticized the protest organized by the families of the hostages to end Gaza war. His statement comes after huge demonstrations taking place all over Israel demanding ceasefire in support of release of hostages. Protesters have reportedly blocked major roadways, have closed private businesses, and have staged rallies in big cities in Israel. Netanyahu has stated that any call to end the war only strengthens Hamas and delay the release of the hostages. He has also stated that his government wants to ensure horrors of October 7, 2023 not to be repeated again. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his ministers, and the coalition partners in government has long criticized the protests to stop the war. Let's listen into what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
אלה שקוראים היום לסיום המלחמה ללא הכרעת החמאס, לא רק שמקשיחים את עמדת החמאס ומרחיקים את שחרור חטופינו, הם גם מבטיחים שזוועות ה-7 באוקטובר יחזרו על עצמם שוב ושוב, ושבנינו ובנותינו יצטרכו להילחם שוב ושוב במלחמת אין קץ. לכן, גם כדי לקדם את שחרור חטופינו, וגם כדי להבטיח שעזה לא תהווה יותר איום על ישראל, עלינו להשלים את המלאכה ולהכריע את החמאס.
Now for this discussion, we are joined by Professor Ephraim Inbar. He's a senior researcher at JISS, joins us live from Jerusalem. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now, given this worsening situation of humanitarian crisis in Gaza, what is happening and how is this this news covered in Israeli media around you about the crisis and also about the growing voice for opposition and the families' voices growing in Tel Aviv?
I think Israel is quite divided on this issue, and the media is almost fully mobilized by the quarters that want basically to see the Netanyahu government fall, and they put pressure on Netanyahu by using this issue. I must say that this is demand to end the war in order to get back the hostages is very unusual. I don't know of any state that has stopped the war because it had prisoners of war on the other side. Also, this demand ignores the recommendations of several committees that were established by Israeli government to regulate the issue of hostages, basically recommending that we should not give in to the terrorist demands. And I think that the fate of the country is obviously more important than the fate of individuals. Nevertheless, this position of mine, and some people, particularly on the right, is not fully accepted by the Israeli people, and but the government should make the decisions, and leaders make decisions not always according to the will of the people, but what they think it's right. I think that Netanyahu wants to end the war on his terms, and his terms are quite reasonable. First of all, the militarization of Gaza, the expulsion of Hamas from Gaza, a goal that is shared by the international community, and bringing in some kind of civilian rule that that is dedicated to fight terrorism. Israel doesn't want to have on its border again a terrorist organization that's caused so much damage to Israel.
Thank you very much, Professor Ephraim Inbar, for joining us and sharing your insight from Jerusalem. Thank you very much. Now we stay on this region. An Israeli airstrike has hit Al-Ahli Hospital in Gaza City. The strikes have killed at least 7 people. The attack comes as Israeli forces advance plans to relocate more than 1 million Palestinians from northern Gaza to designated zones in the south, drawing international concerns over worsening humanitarian conditions. The Israeli military has described the relocation effort as a necessary measure to protect civilians amid ongoing combat operations. However, aid groups and rights organizations warn that the southern zones, often referred to by observers as concentration areas, are overcrowded, under-resourced, and remain vulnerable to bombardment. This is all we have time for. We will continue to bring more news updates from around the world.